Welcome to Synchronicity. My guest this week is Melinda Lee Holm. I just had to make sure I was actually recording here. Wait, this is one I can turn two off. Doing it on a Zoom. She's amazing, Melinda. I saw her at Whitma, the event. I think it's now defunct. Whitma doesn't exist anymore, but that's still cool. Everyone's going to do cool stuff. But anyway, I saw her and she was on an imagination panel. And she was talking about earth energy. And I love earth energy talk because it's what I need to hear the most in life. It's super important for me. So I was just like, oh, wow, she's talking about tarot in such a practical and grounded way that I'm like, I need to connect with her. So when I went out to LA the first time a couple of months ago, I tried to connect. It was too short of a trip. But the second time, we ended up connecting at her place. They've got this really beautiful, where was it? I want to say, is it Silver Lake? I don't fucking know. I should know LA better, but I don't. But amazing house. We got to sit down. There was a kitty. There was a dog. It was just fun times. And we spoke about tarot and all of this awesome stuff and kind of her approach, how she got into it, what it is, magical practices, spells. And I think like my favorite part about Melinda and this is that it's incredibly accessible. It is not, this is woo shit if you want to look at it from that lens, but she makes it so accessible and practical. And that's kind of that earth energy connection. So this episode is a whole lot of that. Stay tuned. It's going to be great. You're going to love it. I want to talk about a few things. Ween. Holy shit. The band Ween. Gene and Dean Ween. So I've known about Ween for a while. I've loved a lot of individual songs, but I've been getting into Ween with Sean and Cass from the Very 8 podcast. Oh my God. I had no idea. So I'm going to see Ween on Valentine's Day in New York City. Come, if you guys love Ween and you want to hang out, come to that show. It's going to be fun. We'll probably be at the 15th too, but just there's a playlist I put together on my Spotify. I'll put it out on Twitter or wherever. Oh, the email list, by the way. I'm starting to send out more music stuff, like playlists I've done, mixes, some recorded mixes. I'll post some songs there. The Patreon is still the best way to get access to all the music. Everything I post music-wise will be there first. So if you want to sign up, patreon.com/synchronicity. You can find that there. But yeah, lots more music stuff. But Ween, if you want to get like the quick kind of plug in, I have my favorite songs in a playlist there. You can find those on Spotify anyway. What else we got? Ned. Let's talk about the lovely, wonderful folks at Ned. Also, do this. I had a listener of the show, post on Instagram when their shit arrived from them and they tagged me. Do that. I'll repost your shit. It's fucking amazing. So Ned CBD products, we know what these are. They're amazing. They make you feel good. I literally keep it in my car. I have one where I'm staying and then in my car. It's the best. I don't know how to explain CBD. It's just kind of this thing that's good for you and good for your body. But really, if I'm being honest, I think it's less about the CBD. I feel the best ads for these people and more about the people and their intentions and what they're imbuing in the products they put out in the world. And if you want just an example or a really good introduction, go listen to the episode with Rhett and Adrian that I did with the Ned, just to get a sense of who they are. They really give a fuck about their products and what they're putting out in the world and the communities they're trying to, reach. That to me is the reason to support these guys. Like if the other reason is if you haven't tried CBD products, just physiologically, it's pretty fucking obvious they're good for you. So do that. They're fun. Go to helloned.com. Use the code SYNC, SYNC at checkout. You get 15% off anything. Yeah. Also, weed companies sponsor me. That's what's going on. I'll be in LA from Nope, not even close. January 7th for 3 to 4 weeks. We'll be doing in-person readings. You can sign up at syncpodcast.com/readings, and we'll be doing other stuff. All the other readings are open. I'm just getting through my business shit. That's what I gotta do now. Gotta fucking support my lives. Is this it? What else did I write here? The mirror technique. I just want to do a little recap because I've been talking about this in all the readings this week. I've been doing, just want to clarify a few things. One is when I talk about this mirror technique, it is not the one where you look in an actual mirror in physical reality. That is when you do your affirmations. You can just tell you love yourself, just all the things you're supposed to be doing. When you wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth, I will never not do that. But what I'm talking about is using the mirror in your imagination. So you imagine a version of yourself and you'll be looking in a mirror and you should see yourself. Giving yourself qualities in that mirror world is the catalyst that makes it easy. I'm going to go into it more in detail in the next solo cast. It's probably the same amount of detail. I'm just going to keep re-emphasizing it. I'm truly morphing into Neville Goddard in the sense where I'm just like, I'm going to keep saying the same shit over and over again until people accept it. But that specific technique, fuck, I don't even know what to say. Don't use it unless you really want that shit because it fucking works. YouTube, I'll be doing some live YouTube stuff. So subscribe to that channel. Also, MindPod Network's YouTube just hit 20,000 subscribers. So I'm going to start using that more. And yeah, what else? I don't know. I think that's it. I think we're good. I think I fucking nailed this intro. Melinda is amazing. You can connect with her. There are links everywhere on this episode page, on all the pages. Just go check her shit out. She's super fucking cool. If you're in LA, she's around doing cool shit. All right. I think we're done. I think I fucking nailed it. I will see you on the other side. Without further ado, here is Melinda Lee Holm. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
we're just gonna jump in, just to
Okay.
be clear, because that's how I do it. So I will explain how I got tuned into you, and
Great.
then I can find out actually who you are and what you're really doing.
Ready.
So at this last Whitma in New York, my friends put that on. I was in and out of the panels, but I did get tuned in. You were on the imagination panel, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's my shit. I was really impressed with you in particular on that panel.
Thank you.
Partially because I just recently got into tarot, like for real, like 2.5 months ago.
Ooh,
And
brand new.
Yeah, but within those 2 months, like shit just started happening. Like I just started, I don't even describe it as learning. It was like remembering. I was like, what the fuck is going on? Where now I actually do professional readings and have been doing them for like a month and a half, and it's like going it's fucking nuts. Yeah.
Whoa.
So it basically was like this crazy fucking thing, but I was struck by how accessible and practical you were making tarot, which to me is like a big part of what I like to do, because I don't want it to seem like this weird mystical esoteric. I mean, it is in some ways, but it's also like it's very useful. So I'm curious, how did you get into the tarot? How do you find yourself as a professional in the tarot world and like doing really cool shit too?
Well, that's I'll get to the second, but first of all, it makes me so happy to hear you say that was your takeaway, was that I was dealing with the material in a way that's very accessible and practical, because that is, I mean, it's kind of the glue that holds together everything in my practice, where I think that, you know, part of what's wrong with the world, globally speaking, is that we have been artificially divided into sort of experts and idiots, really. It's not even because people aren't even given the benefit of like, oh, you're probably learning. It's just like, no, you're stupid and I'm an expert and I'm going to tell you what to do.
Totally.
And that's the root of like all of these forms of abuse and individual abuse and institutional abuse, everything, right? So I am like very much about it. And the tarot comes out of this tradition. It comes out of like an illiterate tradition, right? Like the major arcana, those figures come out of morality plays, these touring plays in Europe that were teaching people how to be good people who couldn't read. And, those were out of, biblical tradition, like teaching people Bible stories because the Bible was only in Latin so that the elites could have a hold on it. So why would we would we perpetuate that notion that this information should be like in an ivory tower, right? So I like to really distill it down. Also, one of the elements is earth. Earth is grounded. It's practical. It's real. It's like what we use it here for. So that's awesome that's coming across. It's always good to get that feedback,
I haven't delved very deeply. Like, I know there's a whole world of tarot personalities and like these YouTubers and this whole thing, and I haven't really explored it that much. But what
I haven't either, honestly,
it's just not. I mean, there's a few people I've come across. I'm like, wow, they're really fucking awesome and they know their shit. But for me, that's not how I typically like to find things. I like to have the people pop up and be like, holy shit, they get it. You know? And you were definitely one of those people. So I was like,
awesome. Just that like natural exploration. I mean, and that's how tarot came into my life was by accident. And I grew up in suburban Minneapolis, Minnesota, and
a hotbed of occult.
Yeah,
exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. Like born in the 70s, like, real. A hotbed of satanic panic. But maybe not anything outside of that. Oh, you can probably hear my dog growling at my cat on here, but she's trying to drink my water. But yeah, I just, I had like a real kind of, chaotic and abusive childhood and was, didn't have a great home life, didn't really fit in at school. And so had a lot of alone time. But just wandering through the bookstore at the mall, God bless Barnes and Noble, found metaphysical section and started going through all these books and like was just so taken by everything about it, like visually, symbolically, I mean, all of it. And so I got the Thoth deck and the book that goes with it, in the Book of Thoth, and then the Buckland's Book of Witchcraft, far more accessible than the Book of Thoth, and far more. And I just kind of started, spending time alone in my bedroom, like going through these, especially that Buckland's book is very instructional.
I don't know it. Yeah.
Oh, you don't?
No, I don't know shit.
Oh my God.
Just to be clear, I know the Thoth deck. That's like,
so it's a Buckland's book. It's like a workbook style. So, it's like a 12-inch high, 10-inch, like a big book. Yeah. And it comes out of like that, the British Wiccan tradition, like kind of 20th century. And so it's like the big blue book. It's so wonderful. And it goes through everything from like, here's how you access the divine, like sit quietly and, all the visualize a bright light, white light coming into your head. And I remember as a kid, I was 15 doing that and feeling my whole body just like filled like with this jolt.
It's a good age to start doing it. Yeah. Because you're establishing your person. That's when I first did LSD. I only bring it up because your sense of self, you're still trying on different personas. So like when you find something that like speaks to you on the inside, you can actually like fully embrace it really quickly. And then that's when that shit happens.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's really magic, and LSD saved my life at that age completely, because it was also, and I started doing acid and doing a bunch of it as a kid at like 14. And it was this, I needed this escape hatch, but it was like the healthiest escape hatch, which I didn't realize until much later in life, because you talk about that as an adult. Yeah, exactly. And people say, oh, that's so sad. That's so sad. And so you just start to believe it. Yeah. And then I did ayahuasca and went back in, and was all of a sudden my teenage self walking around, on LSD, and went, oh my God, this is wonderful. Yeah. And like connecting with my friends and my environment and forming my own world in this way where like I have these boundaries inside of my body and inside of my mind that I'm not allowed to have externally. Yes. Which was just so wonderful. And that's really, what magic did too, was like teaching me these sort of internal boundaries in this way to have control within myself that I didn't have outside of myself.
Yes. I mean, you just described the heart of like every spiritual religion, philosophy. You know what I mean? That's literally it. That is literally it. Like, figure out what the fuck is going on, discipline your mind, recognize that you have control over it whenever you want. If you forget it, don't freak out. Just remember. That's literally like everything. Yeah. And then from there, that's the launching pad for whatever you want to do in life. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And then that's where the practice and the refinement comes in and, you know, and being willing to constantly refine too, right? And make sure that everything you're doing is for the highest good of all beings and not just for yourself, which is something that gets a little, you know, in this kind of empowerment circles, it gets a little messy sometimes. Yeah,
this has been it's been great for me, but it definitely I use desire as my springboard for enlightenment. And that's a tricky one to use because you do, like you said, if your desires tend to be fully selfish. Now, every desire, just to be clear, has some element of selfishness. That's fine. That's totally okay. It's like having nice shit. It's fine. You don't judge yourself. That's the worst thing you can do. But if it's not tied into that greater sense of selflessness or other people, it will crumble at some point, or you'll start getting all the trappings of what you're doing, but you won't feel good about it. And that's even worse. It's like you fucking
then you start feeling crazy and like, oh, I have everything I wanted.
But I'm not. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, man, it is very important and it is a fine line. It is something that I think requires constant refinement, like you're saying. What I found is helpful is, making it fun, like making that refinement process like a fun thing that you do. And that's also where I find like the tarot and a lot of these divinatory things that I've fallen into, they remind you that it can be fun. Like you'll pull a certain card and you'll be like, oh yeah, like I don't have to be so fucking like the Page of Cups. I don't have to freak the fuck out about everything. Okay, there's like weird shit coming up, but it's fun and playful. Great.
Totally.
Totally. Yeah.
Oh, I know less than a fish. Okay, great.
Yes.
This is perfect. Yeah. And, you know, and the cards also provide, for me, and something that I try to perpetuate and invite other people into is that, you know, the cards don't have stagnant meanings. Right. They hold this symbolic wisdom, and wisdom is living. It lives and it evolves. And, you know, if you keep, and so, I mean, Page of Cups, you know, if you keep pulling it in a lot of different situations, maybe that's also an invitation to go like, okay, well, what does being a total novice in the realm of water mean?
Yes.
What is my definition of water? What's my definition of my emotional experience? And to like get into sort of, you know, some bigger philosophical questions and examinations. And I think that can get lost sometimes. It's something that I find very attractive about Buddhism. And, you know, in a lot of the Buddhist traditions, the greatest thing is when the monks are like arguing over the teachings. Like, yes, it's a living tradition. Like you should not accept things unquestioningly.
Yes.
You should continue to talk about it.
And one of the things that I think undercuts all this stuff is the direct experience aspect of it, right? That's why I think those arguments and those that's basically what Judaism is in its core. It's just people arguing about this same text forever.
Right.
It's literally all Judaism. It's just like a bunch of dudes get together and like, this is what it means. No, this is, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, maybe you can take a step back from the arguing all the time. But yeah, it is. And I think that's right. We're constantly pushing the boundaries and expanding our own minds, this world. Things that were commonplace 20 years ago have been totally transcended in a lot of ways where we are now. And that will continue to happen. So through that kind of friction that's created between examination and looking at things, that's how we propel ourselves forward and create the stability that's usually needed for whatever the dominant form of consciousness, mass consciousness is at the time.
Yes.
The past 2,500 years has been kind of like logical and like, this is how the world works. And now we see this crazy shift.
Yes.
It's nuts. So what's your take? What do you think is happening right now? We've seen people, like I also started reading astrology. Astrology is taking off. Tarot's taking off. Mysticism is taking off. Buddhism, I mean, has been taking off for the past 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
Mindfulness had its moments, but I think people are learning that secularism of mindfulness maybe doesn't have the same juice as people wanted it to have. What do you think what's happening right now?
I think, I mean, for what's happening is totally beyond my comprehension, in the largest sense, right? But I do think that there's this, a lot of people have become disillusioned with authoritarianism, and a lot of religious structures and institutions carry that authoritarian, this is what I say, and so it is right, and so you behave this way, otherwise you're going to hell. And that, as people sort of, the world's a big place, and different ways of living and being are more visible and more vocal, and as people sort of, and it doesn't happen all at once. It's like, oh shit, well, okay, so you said that all gay people are bad, but now I have a kid who's gay and he seems pretty cool. I don't know, it just starts to erode. And so I think that people are looking elsewhere for meaning.
Yeah.
And that there's all of this stuff that's been here all along. That's kind of like, oh wait, there's another way. There's another way that honors the individual experience and doesn't try to shove everyone into one box, because that's the commonality, right, with all of the like astrology and tarot and all this stuff, is that it really is about examining and learning from your own experience in a profound way.
And it does seem a lot of these things are leaning or inviting people to lean a little bit more heavily on their intuition and these things that are not as logical and pinned down. And like what you're describing also to me is, the shadow aspect of a card like the Hierophant, right? It's like you want some structure around mysticism and divine stuff. That's great. We need something to hold on to. But if it gets taken to its like completely perverse end, you get like the church being used as a cudgel, scripture being used as a cudgel, like, all these, even like, just to be clear, like, it was funny. There was a period of about like 10 or 15, 20 years, I would say, from like the mid 90s to the mid 2000s, where 2010s, where Buddhism was looked at as like this alternative to the corrupt Catholic Church, which was abusing Buddhism. Oh, well, they get it. And then you see like even Shambhala, I mean, fucking, I'm the biggest Chogyam Trungpa fan in the world. And it was revealed to me that he also experienced abuse, which explains a lot.
Yes.
But all these things that were looked at as these like safe alternatives of like that shit doesn't happen. Of course it started to happen there because it's a reflection of these things that people weren't dealing with as individuals, like you said.
Yes.
And it does seem, I've been saying, and I use a caveat now, that the age of the guru is dying and it's probably dead. It doesn't mean we shouldn't have gurus, because there are people who are actually capable of being in that role and being benevolent and not being weird about it. But it does mean that every single person is becoming their own guru and recognizing what they see in the world is their lesson that they're teaching themselves. And that's when these modalities seem to open up and be like, hey, like, here you go. Like, hey, maybe there's a different way to approach this, and you can prove to yourself that you're actually running the show. And yeah, it's just an exciting fucking time, right?
Yes, it really is. And I mean, I never could really identify as one thing,
right?
And for years and years I judged myself on that. It was oh, you can't commit, or you just
they
all
say
this
there's
stuff.
You're going around the mountain, you're going around, you're not going up it, you didn't pick a path, you're going around.
You just gotta pick one thing. And I find, I mean, you just get to a point, you can't do that forever. You just have to throw it away and stop judging yourself and saying, okay, well, instead of judging, let's just examine here and like, what am I doing? And why, like, okay, well, what I'm doing is, all of, kind of taking from, taking teachings and taking wisdom from all of these different traditions and applying them to what I know. And that's okay. And that's more authentic. It's like, and I grew up in the States, like, we don't we don't have like a big long tradition here, like despite what people will try to say, like we just don't.
It's like 300 years.
Yeah.
It's like
It's
not
not
that. That's like people can remember. Older people could know of people who they were speaking about like 5 generations ago.
Right.
Like that was my great grandfather. It's like, holy shit, guys.
Right.
Like that's nuts.
Yeah.
That's not long.
Yeah, you know, and it's okay to not, you know, and as a tarot reader, I mean, you know, sometimes people kind of try to quiz each other on like, you know, Wiccan holidays or something like that, you know, just like, well, I'm not Wiccan.
I don't know
not.
shit
Like,
about it
yeah,
either.
like I'm sorry. I know a little bit, and
Yeah.
you know, and there's some things that I connect to, and there are things in pagan tradition that I connect to, and I've never even been Catholic, but there are things in Catholicism that
Totally.
I connect to.
Totally.
It's okay to bring all of those things together in a respectful way.
Yeah. It is this interesting thing that I think there's that, again, the line, right? The line of honoring and knowing that it's okay, and being okay with it actually makes it okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I think is what a lot of people would say in the past is like, oh, you're just sampling. You're just sampling and that's your thing. And it's like, well, you know what? Sometimes you need to sample to understand what the different things are before you know how to synthesize them into your particular thing. Like, I would find it odd if we only picked, for me, and it sounds like for you too, like, oh, I'm only a Vajrayana Buddhist. That's it. That's the only thing I believe in. Everything else is subservient to that. Like, my conception of reality is the only thing that's real is our sense of I am, our sense of consciousness. That's God, that's Buddha, that's Krishna, that's literally everything.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's true, everything else is subservient to that, which means everything is fair game. Even the bullshitty stuff is actually real.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely this weird kind of balancing act, I think, with a lot of this stuff of not judging and also like allowing yourself to know that you're not going to fuck your shit up. Like that's a big part of this, you know? Yeah.
Right. Which is, and a lot of people are afraid of that, which is, I think, why sort of guru culture exists, right? People want, and I see it all the time, like people come to me and they just want an answer. They want an answer. They want to be told what to do. They want to be told what's right and wrong. And I get why people fall into the trap of becoming, you know, that sort of like guru all-knowing personality.
Yeah.
Because it's like people are asking you to do it all the time, and you have to actively resist it when you're in a place of, you know, when people have put you in a place of authority, you have to actively resist it and say, no, you're not. We are sitting side by side.
Yes.
I am not an authority over you. I am helping you to discover your authority within.
That's right.
And that's how we're moving forward. But it's constant. And then, you know, with somebody, you know, this is my life. This is my job. I'm working on a book. I'm working on a tarot deck, all this stuff that puts me more and more in the public eye, right? And puts me in
people are coming to you for answers.
Right. And so it is then that expands my personal work into how do I navigate that, and how do I make that, how do I remain in alignment with my values in that position.
See, but this is why success has found you and will continue to find you, is because you take that as a lesson and a challenge rather than some corrupting force that could fuck your shit up. Like, cause this same thing happened to me. Is like, I had a direct experience 17 years ago that just like, it blew my fucking mind open. And I was like, holy shit, what the fuck is going on? And I eventually crashed down from it because I didn't know what was happening. Up until about 7 months ago, I had my like Clark Kent clothes on. I was just like, oh, this is the world. This is how it works. I was speculating. Wow. Yeah, it was pretty nuts. But I still had the remembrance of like, oh, that's not really how reality is. But anyway, I started proving to myself through these imaginal techniques and just doing all this shit, bending reality in a lot of ways that, oh my God, that was right. Like that experience, those downloads, that was fucking accurate reality. As that started to happen, I started to get more confident in answering my own questions, understanding my own sense of stability. And once I had figured it out for myself, sharing it with people. Because I'm like, yo, like, if I did this, you can definitely do it too. But this interesting thing does come up where people start asking you a lot of questions, and then like, shit, I kind of know the answers to those questions. So you do have to do exactly what you're saying. Like, be aware that yes, maybe you do have the answers to these questions, maybe a lot of questions, maybe ones that could change people's lives, or just even the power of suggestion, make their lives a little bit better. Don't get caught up in thinking it's you, the individual alone, who has this, and there is this connection to a broader thing. That's kind of how I stay, like,
yes,
just like, and I'm very, very wary of being pejorative to the ego. I love my ego. Mm-hmm. We're buddies. I think of it like a wolf, and we're friends, and it goes and gets me stuff, and we love each other. Mm-hmm. But I think what a lot of people start to freak out about is this inflated sense of like individualized ego. And you can always get that to like the balloon will never pop or fuck you up if you can just remember, like, yeah, it's you, little I, and then big I. That big I, as long as you remember that, you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. And I think in line with what you're saying there, remembering that that you're not the source of this information. The source of the information is source.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
It's source. It's the divine. It's the universe.
Yeah.
And that we are channels, but that we're also interpretive channels. We're human. The universe doesn't speak American English, right? Like, it's ridiculous to think that.
Not all the time.
Yeah, not all the time. Like the idea that just like, oh, I'm just this pure channel of information. Like, no, you're not. We're human. We're living in this material world. Any information that comes through is coming through that material world filter and through the filter of our language, which is, all language is limiting. And that's okay. And then if you just acknowledge that, then it allows people, it kind of gives them permission to acknowledge that within themselves too, right? To say like, oh, this is what I'm thinking, or, this is what I'm feeling. That doesn't mean that it's absolute truth. It means that this is an experience that I'm having and that I can interpret.
Yes. And I think what that ultimately helps us do is distinguish between those two kind of like I look at it like the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, or unconscious, right? The conscious mind is aware, it's practical, it's rational, it's personal, it's selective. Like, we know, oh, I want that. I want to take a sip of water. I will take a sip of water. It's also relatively weak and poor at affecting change in this world. It seems like it's good. It seems like, oh, I'm going to get the water, I'm going to do it. But if we go back one step, there's an urge or something that's deeper than that that's there. The subconscious mind, to me, is feminine. It's receptive. It is impersonal, non-selective, irrational, not in like anything to do with women or being crazy. Just it doesn't give a shit about morality or anything else. What this means is it accepts anything delivered to it by the conscious mind that is fully accepted by the conscious mind, receives it, and then delivers that out. So I've found that this principle, if you can kind of lock into it, find your desires, find your wishes, find your real goals in life, and actually deliver it to your subconscious effectively through spells or any other thing.
Right.
Reality literally conforms to what you delivered to it. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. And that process is fun and amazing, but it also gets us better at, like, when a feeling comes up, knowing like, hey, like, this is what I've been like, is this my feeling? Or is this some other thing going on here? Like, because this doesn't really feel like me. You get better at those distinguishing marks, which also makes you a better vessel for like getting shit and like information from places.
Exactly. You can receive, well, and it's the two energies that you're describing just very much to me feel like the Emperor and the High Priestess.
And I love the High Priestess.
Right? I love the High
He's my
Priestess.
favorite. Yeah.
And I love the Emperor. And I think that, I mean, this is part of my whole thing too, is that there are no good cards, there are no bad cards in the tarot deck, right? And the Emperor, people are so resistant.
It's because the past 2,500 years, right? You know,
right.
Yeah.
That it's that. But if we can take, it's just that you have to have both.
You do.
Right? That if the emperor is making, like making all these plans and setting everything up and just like exactly in their vision, and then taking that to the high priestess and saying, okay, what can we do with this? Yeah. And then allowing the high priestess to do their thing and like go in and out. Then you've got magic.
That is exactly Literally. What it is. And I've been looking a lot at the distinction between the magician and the high priestess, who I feel are essentially doing the same thing. But the magician is up there like, look at me, I'm doing all this stuff. See all these suits and cool energies I have? And the high priestess is like, I'm chilling. I'm just going to let stuff happen. You're going to tell me what you want. I'll give it to you. I'm not going to freak out. And she's got the moon and all the emotional things with her. And I've found that our emotions and our feelings are actually they're the operative mechanisms of like unfolding reality. And that is both a liberating and terrifying thought. Terrifying if you have no control over your emotions, which was me for a long time. And it's like, holy shit.
Yep.
Liberating if you know that you can control your emotions, or at least develop the capacity of mind to examine them to see like, what are they? Why is that happening? And then you just kind of give it to yourself. And then it's like, oh my God.
Yeah. And to not fight your emotions too. I think like we tend to, and especially men, like men are just like, you guys are really fucked in this capacity. I'm just like all of this, thousands of years of being no, don't feel anything
bad.
And if you do, don't fucking tell anybody.
Yeah,
like
don't.
You better keep it under wraps. And so it's like having, then you grow up and you have feelings and like, what are you supposed to do with that? Like, it's such a crazy thing. And it's life changing to just allow yourself to feel and give yourself space and go, oh, I'm sad. I'm going to be sad.
Yeah, it's fine. And what's cool about it is you actually get to dictate your relationship to those emotions. Like I've noticed there's a lot of manifesting stuff that's going on in my life, just in general, like conscious, intentional, and it happens. But the strength of all of this kind of the magic and the divinatory stuff and just kind of accepting how reality is when shit isn't going well, when the external circumstances are like, what the fuck? Like my kid, my 2-month-old was in the hospital with tubes in his throat. It's RSV. It was just a cold, but
still it's terrifying.
It's every parent's worst nightmare, truthfully. Yeah. But by using these kind of like, I don't know, awareness techniques, imaginal techniques, magic, whatever you want to call it, I was so fucking stable in that moment where I knew 2 years before, a year before, 6 months before, I would have crumbled as a human being, catatonic, probably. Like, truthfully, it was crazy. And I was like, you know what? We have so much more control. Our mind is so much more malleable. And this is a scary thought for a lot of people because sometimes it doesn't feel like we have control, but we have so much agency, control, whatever word you want to use, over our states of consciousness that if we take the time to kind of pre-select very powerful states of consciousness like fearlessness, balanced, ecstasy, joy, those things, this world becomes a very different place.
Yes.
Like very different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
completely different. And that it's so, there's so little reality that's objective, right? Arguably, there's zero reality that's objective.
I would argue that. I would argue that.
Yeah, and so, it's liberating and it's terrifying to so many people. I mean, that's why we have gurus, because people don't. Yeah. It's so scary to accept the level of control over your own life that you have, because also then you need to, in a vacuum, that sounds great. But in reality, that means that you look around at your life and you see things that you don't like, that you've been suffering under, and you have to go, oh, fuck, I did that too. Yeah. And that's the part that is really, of course it's difficult to face. It's really challenging. And it gets messy because there's no hard line between what we've created for ourselves and what has been thrust upon us by other people, by institutions, by systems, that's all real as well. And it requires this constant examination and navigating between things. There's just it's not black and white. It's all a gray gradient.
It is. And I think where it starts to get really weird, and I think part of the reason why we logically and analytically reject a lot of these things, like, hey, it's all your subjective reality, is because A, our senses deny that. It's like wrong, like, that's not how the world works. So that's number one. Number two, what you're describing is many people, I used to say most, I'm going to say many now, a Trumpism, have a very difficult time dealing with their own individual existence, their own issues, their own problems, their own whatever, relationships. The idea that you are everything and everything is you, including other people, then makes you responsible for literally everything. Yep. And most people do that quick little like equation in their head. And they're like, no, no.
I'm good.
I'm good on all that. Like, yeah, this is my rent and the kids. It's just like a whole thing.
Yeah.
But what you realize is if you click into that state of consciousness, everything that bothers you or people that bother you or situations or institutional stuff cease to become these things that just vex you and like fuck you up and you're like, but they become and reveal themselves as lessons, as opportunities. And this is, I think, because this can very get quickly into spiritual bypassing and just do your own shit, fuck it over there. This is why I think the act of bearing witness to other people's suffering, institutional suffering, is for people who really like want to do big things in this world. Like, yeah, it's gonna be great. Everything is gonna, like, shit is getting better, for sure. However, don't just stick your head in the sand like an ostrich. Someone pointed out to me that I've been saying camel. Don't stick your head in the sand like a camel. They're like, camels don't do that. I'm like, yeah, you're right. You're totally right. I'm an idiot. It's an ostrich.
Well, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't beat him to death.
It's just like some fucked up butchering of an aphorism. But yeah, the truth is that this is how our reality works. And if we can hold that perspective, especially in times of confrontation or triggering, or just like looking at someone like Donald Trump and being like, you shouldn't do that, without attaching ourselves to that and judging and condemning. I don't think I know that's how we actually start addressing these issues. And it's just, it's a major step that is a prereq for anyone who actually wants to alleviate suffering beyond their own. And I would say, and I'm sure this is your experience, like, don't try to really take on anyone else's suffering until you've stabilized your shit and know how to deal with your own. You know what I mean? Like,
oh my God, absolutely. And look, it's a lifelong process. Yep. Like, none of us is ever gonna, we're not gonna be perfect. And if anybody thinks they are, like, run the other way from that person. But get it under control. Get it under control. And then also pick one thing, go outside, volunteer somewhere, like do something,
take an action.
It's very grounding. Right. And like excuse me, my thing, I tutor once a week at the LA LGBT Center has an incredible education program. And anybody, like homeless youth can come and like, we help them get their GED and stuff, but it's so great to help. And being a good tutor, is like
throat chakra.
Jeez Louise. This is my true throat. I'm going to speak it.
It happens to me all the time. It really does. It's so funny.
Right? It's like just right when you get to the thing that you're like, and this is the thing that I want to say. Anyway, but it's being a good tutor is like being a good spiritual leader. You don't just look at the math problem and tell the person the answer.
No.
You help them to discover the answer themselves. So when they encounter a similar problem later on the test, they can solve that problem on their own.
Teach a man to fish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's what I hope to do.
And it's true. Like I tend towards the more ethereal and imaginal conception of reality, because I acknowledge this world of duality. I acknowledge time as a thing, but really I don't. And so I've learned.
You have to a little, but still.
I mean,
you were right on time today, so you're pretty good at faking it.
So what's crazy is about the time thing. So I used to be like compulsively like early to places. I'd be like 15 minutes early. And I started to examine, like, why? I'm nervous about maybe the other person being upset if I don't get there in time. Maybe the people will be slow. And so I'd noticed when I travel to places, I'd have a lot of anxiety about getting there, even if I was early. I let that shit go. and this weird thing started to happen where I'm almost never early, but I'm never late. I'm always within like 2 or 3 minutes. And sometimes it's LA.
Wow.
Sometimes it'll be like, you're definitely not getting there in time. Like, no fucking way. Sunset, you're going to be jammed up forever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't really accept that. And this weird thing started to happen. Like, I got a parking spot right out there. It's just
No
like,
way.
literally right there. It's just like this weird, it's this acceptance thing of like, you don't have to have it be a certain way, but you just kind of know. Like in the same way you make a deal with yourself. And I've been telling people this because it's important. Sit down, whatever ritual you need to do, whatever modality you need to do, just make a commitment to yourself that you don't fuck your shit up. The reason is A, you won't, but B, when it feels like maybe you are, you'll remember, oh, I'm not going to. So even if shit gets fucking nuts, like you're good. But but the time and the duality stuff, I think should be useful as expansion and like lessons for us. But if they start to restrict us, this is also what I say with tarot and astrology readings. Mm-hmm. If I'm giving a reading to someone, I'd really be interested to hear your thoughts on this. And it feels constrictive, restrictive, deterministic, or like it's boxing you in. You're not understanding what I'm trying to communicate to you through the cards, because
absolutely
that ain't it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. When did you start reading professionally? Like when did you we're like, okay, I've grokked this. Let me start doing this.
I started really, so that like when I started taking money for readings, right?
Yeah.
Like that's
or friends, family. You can do that trajectory because that's usually how it starts, right?
Yeah. I mean, I had read for friends a little bit. It was really, I was very reluctant to give myself another external marker of being an outsider. I felt like I really had that covered for many, many, many years.
Do I really want to double down?
Yeah,
on this shit?
totally. Like, I'm just gonna keep this private. It's gonna be fine. And then I moved to LA 8 years ago, and it was about a year after that, so about 7 years ago, where I started, really, really doing things professionally. Which is like 20 years after I had started reading and, and had been studying and practicing all that time. But
we have the opposite origin stories.
Yeah, totally.
There literally couldn't be. Yeah.
I'm my moon is in Taurus. Okay. Very slow and and I have Virgo rising, so I like to be exacting. Like make sure everything's buttoned up.
What's your sun sign?
Cancer.
Me too.
Yeah.
What's your birthday?
July 10.
July 20th. Nice. Yes.
So you get it. You just want to hold everyone in that watery embrace.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just started. It just grew. It just grew and grew and grew on its own, and people kept asking me for it, and I moved here with a job. I was working as a photo editor for MSN.com, and then was laid off about a year after I moved here. And I just, it was one of those like deep inner knowing of like, oh no, I'm not. No one can see my resume. I'm not doing that anymore. That's not what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I just started doing, metaphysical world full time. I worked part time at my friend's crystal shop at Spellbound Sky over in Silver Lake here.
Oh, where should I go for crystals?
Go to Spellbound.
Fuck yeah. Amazing.
Go to Spellbound Sky. It's incredible. Okay. And there,
I'm gonna go there after this.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's very close.
Awesome.
But yeah, and that was a magical thing too, where they had just Mark and Martin had opened up the store. It was in around the corner in a much smaller place than the one you'll see, and it was just the two of them, and they had just gotten to the point where they needed to hire somebody else. And I'm like, it's me. And then for my 39th birthday, the gift I gave myself was that I wouldn't work for anyone else anymore.
Fuck. That's the best, one of the best gifts anyone can give themselves.
Yeah, because I just thought I have to, I'm going to be 40 in a year, and I want to know. I don't want to turn 40 wondering.
Yeah.
I want to know. And if I can see it, like a year is a lot of information, right? Yeah. And it was, and it is, and I'm still not working for anybody else. So that's
so awesome because I think a lot of people, it's weird. I had a similar thing happen to me, but I've worked for myself since I went to a music college. So there wasn't like, I wasn't going to get like fast tracked into a corporate high paying job. So I was like, all right, let me try to. So I very quickly after I started doing freelance digital marketing, but 7 months ago, I made a similar type of decision where even though I was freelance, I was still working, yeah, sure, with other people, but for other people. They're hiring me to do shit for them. And I'm like, no fucking more.
Yeah.
That coincided almost like to the week or like with the tarot stuff and the astrology stuff. Like it was so weird how it came into my life and then started showing me like how I could make, because I was very reluctant to charge. I actually asked my friend's mom, who's an astrologer, and she only does free readings. I was like, listen, I feel weird about charging money for this because like I just learned it. I don't know what's going on. She's like, oh no. She's like, you're good. Like you're good. She's like, your Neptune is right where it needs to be. It's in a water sign. Like you're good to go. Oh no, it was in Sagittarius. She's like, you're good. Like the divine arts, the mysticism, like you're good to go. So I was like, fuck yeah. And it literally, it's interesting when you make those decisions, how everything conspires kind of magically to make it happen. You can bring this friends at the crystal store. It's just weird. And I think people need to hear that it is nothing more than an inner sense of conviction and faith and determination that actually allows you to do it. It's not like people are not handed these opportunities without that on some level.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it's very similar to something I think about. I have a lot of friends in the music industry, right? And at all levels.
All levels, yeah.
And you know, literally the only thing that they all have in common, everybody who works full-time in music, is that they refuse to stop.
You just won't. You can't.
That's it. That's the only thing. And it doesn't, and it's not a judgment on anybody who does. Like people make decisions at some point. They're like, this hustle is not
too much.
Good for me. Yeah. It's too much. It's not good for my health. I'm going to go get a job. And that's great. But I think people have this idea that there's some magical thing, or that there's that there's like a rich parent, which is a misconception that about me, that someone told me that I
they thought you were funded.
Yeah, that I was actually super flattered by, because I grew up really, really poor. So I was like, oh, you
transcended your poverty mentality. Yeah,
totally. Like, oh my God,
that's awesome.
Well, yeah, it's like it's just you really just put one foot in front of the other. And
yeah, it is, I think, for a lot of people who find themselves in creative or mystical paths, you can't do anything else. And when you try to do something else, it eats at you so much. Like, that's what people don't understand. Like, they'll ask someone who just did this. And I know this is someone who let this eat me for like 15 years. Right. Like, it wasn't like I learned this. I'm like, oh yeah, it was just naturally, like I just pursued being. It's like, no, like I fought this shit real hard. And it becomes clear at a certain point, or maybe it doesn't for some people, that like it doesn't. I would rather almost do anything than sacrifice the part of me that actually makes me feel alive and good. And paradoxically, as you found and I'm finding, as you make those decisions, they're not mutually exclusive. You can do the things you want to do and be okay and have it happen. And I don't want to give it like this glossy, like, hey, yeah, just become a tarot reader overnight and everything's going to work out. This was for you 20 years before you started doing it professionally. For me, 25 plus years of experience I could not have done this without everything before then. So even though it seems really fast, I popped it open real fast. It was something that was slow building for so long. So I don't want to make it seem like some people can jump cut real fast for sure, but it is this cumulative kind of direct experience that leads to these realizations that you can do this stuff.
And it really pulls everything together. I mean, I went to school for art history. I got a degree in art history. I had zero awareness that I was getting a degree that would be directly informing and supporting my career as a tarot reader.
Yeah, how could you have?
I mean? Yeah, no idea. I was just very, very had always been super fascinated by visual language. I'm a visual learner, like all the symbolism embedded in art. Like, yeah, duh, tarot. But I just had no I had no idea, and my dad was kind of like, okay, I don't know what you're going to do with that. I'm like, I don't either, but
Yeah.
let's see. Let's find out.
How, God, that's cool. The art history background. So how does it inform kind of your approach to using tarot, which is clearly just imagery, right? Like what are the connections you see that probably a lot of people don't pick up on just because you've studied this stuff?
Well, I think the main one is just seeing the historical context of the deck, right? Which is something that's very, very important to me, and seeing, where these archetypes come out of, why they're named, what they are named. Exactly. And what they were before then, right? Like the Hierophant is, the Pope in the Marseille deck. And so people have sort of an allergy to that a lot of times. But why do we have a Pope? Why do we have a Hierophant? Where does that come from? Like, it comes from, like there have always been spiritual leaders. They're like pagan spiritual leaders. Somebody has to lead the ceremony.
Right.
Somebody has to lead the ritual.
The shaman.
Exactly.
Right.
Somebody has to answer it. And so, like, also being able to sort of continually trace back that just that the culture that things come out of is very important. And it also leaves me open to interpreting and to say, like, okay, so what does that look like now? How does that role, how does that energy manifest in contemporary societies, contemporary cultures?
Putting a modern lens on these archetypal energies,
right?
Which
I think that's and I think because of my background in art history, that stuff doesn't make it less magical to me.
Right.
It makes it more magical, right? Where, and like the Golden Dawn, God bless them, like lots of great work, but very invested in obscuring the history, rewriting the history, making it, it's like the real history isn't good enough. Yeah. It's not good. It's from Egypt. It's cool. We just dug up a bunch of tombs, so everybody's
definitely
excited about
it. Not, by the way.
Right. And which, I mean, another art history point. Of course, all of that stuff is all about Egypt, because Egyptomania was so fucking real. They were actively excavating all these tombs and discovering new stuff all the time. Like, it was a huge thing. It's not that Egypt is this inherently magical place. I mean, it is, but it is. But you know what I mean. That's not why.
No,
that's not
at
why.
least not practically in the world why.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. The why is because the Golden Dawn was operating at a time when culturally this stuff was bananas. Why are all the classic theaters, all the old silent movie theaters, all Egyptian themed?
Yeah.
It was everywhere.
It was pervasive. It was like a loop in time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was really good marketing on the part of the Golden Dawn, really, to say that everything was rooted in Egypt.
It tapped into deep archetypal energies too, which people really.
Yes.
I'm appreciating something about you. So I spoke to because he lives close to me, is Robert Place, who does the alchemical tarot, and he has like a shitload of decks, and he, like you, is acutely interested in the history and the etymology and like really where this stuff came. He showed me some cards that are like 400, 500 years old. It's insane. I'll show you.
But he has in his personal collection.
Yeah, it's
that's impressive.
Oh, it's nuts. They're fucking nuts.
Yeah.
But for me, as someone who's recently discovered it, I had almost no historical context for it. But what I loved about the way he described it and the way you're describing it is, I think for some people, if they were invested in the narrative of them being like these holy, mystical, Isis delivered them through some seance thing, when they find out that like, hey, like most of the stuff we use kind of came from like playing cards. Like they weren't even the mystical ones at all. Like the actual deck of cards that we play with was the mystical one. Like that fucks people up. But to me, it reveals the truth of this, which is it's us.
It's us.
It's us. It's nothing to do with anything. Like, of course it's something to do with it, but it's really us. And I found that's why I've been able to do readings that help people, is because I never make the mistake of thinking like I'm doing this.
Right.
It's the person developed this crazy thing where they got in touch with me or they get in touch with you. Oh, they think they're doing it, but it's really them trying to communicate with themselves, something very deep and profound. And if you're good, if you're clear and understand this shit like you do, you can actually help people like a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot.
It's been, and just incredibly humbling and rewarding.
Always. Like, right? I mean, I didn't know that when I started to do this. Like I would get little glimpses of it, but then, you know, the more you do this, you've been doing it now for a while, like, man, you just see, you'll just hit something for someone and you can just feel the change and that perspective. They go, whoa. It's one of the most rewarding. It's gotta be how doctors feel when they like a surgeon and they heal, you know what I mean? Because you just feel like, holy shit. Like, what is that? So cool.
Yeah. Where it's always like, oh, looking at my hands, like, whoa, oh my gosh, like, how does this happen? I mean, it is. That's you know, and that's the magic. That's the real magic, is the interpersonal relation, and the ability to communicate and to reflect someone and their experience back to them in a way that's loving and elevating and not
helpful. Yeah, it's kind of the best. Let's talk a little bit about earth energy. Because I alluded to it. I have a tendency to just be like, yeah, this world exists, but not really. And just like be comfortable with that and still be able to navigate it and not be totally like batshit. But I have found, especially Capricorn, right? We know what's happening with Capricorn this coming year. It's going to be real intense, especially related to people's fears. But this element of earth energy is also like, it's one of the best parts of being human, is that like we are on earth and it's pretty cool. So what's your connection? Taurus moon. Why do you spread the gospel of earth energy? So,
because sorry, was that the end?
No, that was the end. Okay. It did trail off weirdly, but that was it. I
wanted to make sure that I wasn't cutting you off. I think that something that is commonly missing from people's understanding of magic and spirituality is that it applies to your real life. That it is not some fanciful thing that's like a fun addition, that it is real and tangible and a practical tool that you can use. And I think that when you open yourself up to that, it shows you all of these other ways that earth energy can be manifest in your life. I mean, one of the things at Whitma that I said, sorry, this is going to be important. My throat's trying to close. You know, there was a question about like play, you know, play and bringing play in, and my thing with that is like, what, you know, people don't decide that they're going to play from 9 to 5,
this fucking
right?
blew me away.
So, you know, and so what can, you know, and then you can just, and when you start to say things like that, you can feel the people in the room sort of backing off, like, well, that must be nice for you, but I work in an office and I can't and so I just said, like, look, like, earth element, real practical solution, then drink tons of water. If you can't make that decision within yourself, if you don't feel empowered to just say, I've had enough and I need a break, make your body do it. Make your earth element body do it. Drink a ton of water so that you have to get up. Otherwise you'll pee your pants at your desk. Like, just that's, and to me, right?
I love it.
And it's like, it's silly, but it is also so real. And that is, to me, that is a type of magic. Like, giving yourself permission and allowance to affect your world through the means available to you. That's magic.
Yeah. And it also works macro and microcosmically, your practical suggestions, because if we just look at it like, hey, feed your emotions, and then after you keep feeding your emotions, you'll eventually have to get up and do something about it. Like, that's when you know it's like real wisdom, when it literally is like applicable meta to everything. But it's true, like, that is something that I have found to be very present in kind of the modern mindfulness community, which is what I realized after I kind of balanced my elementals unintentionally and masculine and feminine energies, is that what I thought was meditation, and granted I didn't do it that much, but I had extended periods, was not even close to meditation. It was literally me closing my eyes and fighting with my mind. And I could have done that for infinite years and been no more close to what's going on.
Totally.
The reason I bring this up is it's wonderful to tell people they should sit down and meditate and that they'll start noticing their monkey mind and figuring out the nature of their discursive mind. But if there's no practical fucking benefit or step one can take what are we doing? And that to me is why this earth energy, it's like, yes, let's take these spiritual practices, modalities, concepts, ideas, but can we just actually use them here since we're awake here a lot of the time? You know what I mean? Like that's, it's just needed.
Give people, and people like, we need something to do. That's our animal nature. Like we want something to do.
That's why we're here.
Yeah. And look, like, I used to write all of my spells, with a 7-day candle, right? Because I love a 7-day candle. I love it. I have a fireplace. I can set it in front of the fireplace and it's fire safe and everything. But a lot of people are not comfortable, quite reasonably, with leaving a candle burning for 7 days nonstop. Or they don't have a fire safe place for it or whatever. And so I started writing them like, or you can use a tea candle and you just do it every day for 7 days.
Yeah.
And then I realized like that for beginners, that using the tea candle is actually better in a way because you're engaging with it every single day.
It's a repetitive practice.
Exactly. Instead of like, okay, and then go sit, like go sit and meditate in front of it. And like, okay, like what am I doing in that meditation? Like I'm just going to sit there with this candle that's burning for 7 days. If you actually physically go and light it, then like, that's great. Then you're engaging, and that action, that movement, that energy here on earth reverberates out through all of the planes and lets the universe reflect it back to
I love
you.
that. That's huge. And it does show that it's not that we're sitting here bashing meditation and closing your eyes. It's the idea of a practice is actually what's beautiful about what is being presented with meditation. It's that practice doesn't have to look a specific way. It just has to be something you're routinely doing. That's the best part of it. Like it would suck if it had to be this one specific way and that's the only way. That would be lame and it wouldn't be fun. Yeah. And it also doesn't make sense. So, because nothing is like that. But
nothing is like that. There are so many different ways. And look, like I went last November, went to India for the first time. It was incredible.
Where in
went
India
to this
did you go?
Went to Dehradun.
I don't know what that
and
is.
did it's up in the foothills of the Himalayas.
Northern,
very near Rishikesh.
Rishikesh, that's what I had in my head.
Yeah, so we stayed in this.
They have weed up there that just grows wildly.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's so funny.
Yeah.
That's it. And they have the honey.
What?
The trippy honey.
What's trippy honey?
Oh my God! So
what the fuck is trippy honey?
In the Himalayas, they have the biggest honeybee in the world, and they make honey that is hallucinogenic.
Holy shit! And you had some?
No, I didn't.
Where do we? I want to go.
I know, but let's go. Let's go get this honey.
I need this honey. It's like Winnie the Pooh time.
I didn't know about the honey at the time I was there, and then anyway, so I was up there, at this fancy ashram, and they, even there in like the kind of center of the spiritual world, there are a million different types of meditation. They're like, well, which one should I do? They're like, I don't care. Like,
whatever.
Go to that one. Go to that one. Go to the evening yoga. Like, try them out
and figure out what
do
works.
Whatever. Yeah. Do you need to be chanting? Is that something that helps focus your mind? Do you need to stare at a candle flame? Does that visual cue focus your mind? Is it visualization inner? Is it moving your body? Is it your breath? Like, just go do them all and figure out which one. It's not a one size fits all.
That's what a bee does.
Yeah.
It doesn't stick to just one flower. It goes around and finds all the available flowers because it needs to make that honey.
Yes.
I want the psychedelic honey, basically, is what I'm saying.
Do
that
too.
Really...
Oh my God. I mean, if you needed more reasons to be in love with bees or the Himalayas, give me a break.
A bee flew into my Airbnb today and it couldn't get out and it wouldn't go out the same door. So it got stuck in like this skylight area. So I opened this other door and I was like, all right. And I'm like, I'm like, I don't want to say I'm afraid of bees, but I get a little weird around them because I don't know if I'm allergic. My mom is allergic and I just haven't been stung. So it's like this weird.
Never?
No, never.
Whoa.
I was bit by a bee when I was a kid, but it didn't, yeah.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, it was on my cheek and it wasn't a sting. I am very confident I am not, but I was like, all right, I have to help this bee. Like, I'm not going to be able to open the skylight or anything, but I opened this door and I was like, all right, I'll go and I'll make some music. And by the time I come back, he'll be gone. And he did. He got out. And I was like, oh, because I like to see bees as signs of abundance.
Yes.
Like that is what they are. So I don't
Yes.
like to run away from them. Like, it's like not what you want to do if abundance is coming into your life. It's like, I'll help this fucking bee. But yeah, bees are really, really cool. So I end with 3 questions and then 1 open-ended question. What's your favorite color?
Red.
Nice. What's your favorite number?
Ooh, I was about to say 3, but really it's 9 because 9 is 3 threes.
Okay, cool. Favorite animal?
My dog.
This cat over here is just like, what the
I know.
fuck? No, I get it.
She is. She gets it.
I get it. What's a practical tip that's helped you in your life that you could share with people listening? Could be anything.
Ooh, really quick, I want to revise my answer, my favorite animal.
Okay.
Because now I do feel bad that I've chosen between one of my 2 beloved baby pets. And octopus.
Cool. Psychic octopus. Love
yes,
it.
octopus.
Emotions.
I think octopus is the greatest representation of the 5th element.
Totally quintessence.
Yes.
Of course.
Yes.
Okay. It's officially changed.
Okay. Thank you. Feel much better about that. Okay, so sorry, and then what was the last question?
A practical tip that's helped you in your life that you could share with people listening, and it could be anything.
Don't be afraid to say no.
That's real important for this next coming year.
Yeah.
Real important.
Don't be afraid to say no.
That's some earth energy wisdom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, down to like, especially, like this time of year, the end of the year, there's like a million parties and functions. If you're tired, say no.
Yeah.
Stay home.
Yeah.
Job doesn't feel right, say no.
Yeah. This
Can
is
I
good
talk
stuff.
to you about something? I'd rather not.
Yeah.
Like
Stiff arm sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get it. Melinda, this has been a pleasure.
Yes. Same.
All right.
Absolutely.
We'll connect soon.
Okay.
Thanks for listening to that episode. A reminder, you can check out all of the links to connect with Melinda on Instagram. I don't think she's on Twitter. I don't think so. But there's all the links to her stuff and everything. She's pretty great, as you can tell. Rate and review this podcast, so I need to say that anymore. Join the email list. That's the best thing you can do right now. If you want to stay connected with everything, the 2 best places would be Patreon and the email list. And email list is probably better than Patreon because you don't have to pay for it. You can just optionally connect where you want. But the Patreon's also sweet too, especially when these live events kick off this year. You're going to want to be on them because you get in for free. So that's fun. Do that. It's like the cost of Netflix. So it's pretty fucking good. All right. That's it. I will see you in a few. Well, I don't know when I'm putting this out. I'll see you with the solo cast though. All right. Love you. Bye-bye.